Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Class 1A podcast. My name is Andrew Nimsgren, and today I'll have James Graham with me to break down everything that happened in Season 5, Episode 21 of My Hero Academia Revival Party, continuing off the My Villain Academia arc. And James, I think last week was amazing. Getting to see all the villains again, seeing them face up against Machio was so cool, but this just took the entire arc and even season, I'd say, to a whole different level today. Do you agree?
100%. Yeah. No, we gotta get some nice power ups. Got some new faces. We got a bunch going on, man. I'm happy with how the show's going with the direction right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've talked about it a couple times. Everyone was so worried about what it was going to look like, but if this is
Yeah.
what the remaining 4 or 5 episodes of the season look like and feel like, I think this is going to be one of the best arcs in My Hero Academia. So I do want to kind of jump into that. Dylan's not here, so he's not going to be here to slow down the episode. So we are going to blast through and talk about all the awesome things we want to. The True Degenerate Duo. But before we do jump into that, if you guys do end up enjoying this episode, make sure to subscribe, like so that it shows up in the YouTube algorithm, and comment on your thoughts about the episode below. Also, if you do want to listen to this on the go, we are on podcasting platforms as always, so you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen. We are going to be there as well. And if you ever need those links, comment or tweet at us. We can always get those over to you. Speaking of Twitter, the one last thing we want to plug is go over to twitter.com/class1apod and follow us over there. It's where we pretty much can stay up to date on everything that we do, post some awesome screenshots, questions, and all that as well. So go check us out over there as well. But James, anything else you want to say, or should we jump into this episode recap?
No, dude. I'm sure Dylan will dispute you saying that we're the true degenerate duo, but I mean, like, yeah, get into it, man.
I gotta take the shots wherever I can. But with the full quick recap of Season 5, Episode 21, Revival Party, it starts off to his advantage and wants to try to convince Twice to join the Middle Liberation Army, so they sent fake copies of himself to go and attack Twice, which I don't know why that's going to help bring him in the Middle Liberation Army, but that's where the episode ends, and we see that it's going to be a Twice heavy episode next week based on the preview. But it was a very combat focused episode. But even with that, we did get some cool backstory. We got Quirk level ups. We got to really see the power of the Metal Liberation Army. I mean, there was so much that happened in this episode.
There's a lot to take in. Like, I mean, you really just get chucked into the vastness that is their numbers, right? Like, they keep boasting, like, 110,000 or something like that, and it was supposed to be across Japan. I think initially was our initial impression of that, but they literally just keep coming out of the woodwork, right? So, and I'm kind of impressed that like the League of Villains, because there's like, what is there? There's 6 of them, 5 of them, or something like that. Like, they don't have that many people, right? So I think it really shows you the strength of like what how strong the league is, just on a base level, right? But then you get all these crazy power ups and shit, right? And then it just starts going to a whole nother level.
And I think that's the first place we kind of want to jump into and talk about, because
Mhm.
I don't think we've ever seen a literal Quirk power up. So we've seen Tokuyami find new ways to use his quirks or get stronger. We've seen, I mean, Deku's the exception. Obviously, he just has multiple quirks. We've seen Bakugo use his quirk in new ways, but
Yeah,
Toga's quirk is being able to transform into someone with the blood by taking in their blood.
yeah.
And while it still makes sense that transform into someone giving you the quirk abilities, that's not something we've ever seen before, and we haven't seen that kind of quirk jump anywhere else, I don't believe. Can you think of anything else?
I really can't. It's been like a refined manipulation of a quirk that has like kind of evolved it. That's what our initial like our previous like interpretation of like a quirk getting better was, right? You've had a better way to manipulate it, to harness it better, like with Bakugo when he created like AP shot and stuff like that, right? Or Tokoyami when he got with what is it, like full darkness cowling or whatever it is. That's really where we saw it, right? But this is like this is weird because, yeah, it's like it's not only using a quirk, but it's making it significantly better. And it kind of begs the question to like, okay, so are like quirks in somebody's blood? Like, is it like is that the part of the anatomy that it's kind of factored in from, right? Because that's how she gets it, right? Like, that's where it comes from. So it's kind of crazy to look at. And yeah, like it's weird, right? Like we've never seen it before.
Yeah, and I mean, I think having the Shigaraki one in the same episode makes it easier to kind of see how it's level up and kind of talking from a class 1A standards for how I see this kind of a jump would be. So like right now, Ariyama, he could shoot a laser beam out of his belly button.
Right.
What to me, this level, quirk level up for someone like Ariyama, would him having being able to blast out that beam from everywhere all at once in short bursts, or having
Right.
more kind of pop up. Like that's how I see this level up for Aoyama because it's the easiest, most straightforward kind of one. Is what I see there. So the Shigaraki going from having one form of decay to being able to do it to a range is a big thing. It is still the same quirk fundamentally, but
Yeah.
it is still a big jump. I mean, you can see that even with water quirks, where just because you have a water quirk doesn't mean you can control water or shoot it very fast or anything kind of like that. Like you could
Well, we
have
saw it with
different.
Coda, right? Like Coda was a prime example of a water quirk that wasn't really like super manifested. Like he had like this little like splash, and that was really it,
Yeah.
right? And obviously, as he gets more and more powerful, it would get increasingly stronger, I guess.
Yes, but there's still limitations on what it could be. So just
Yes.
because you have a type of quirk doesn't mean you can just do anything with it. You can control fire, but that doesn't mean you can control everything fire related. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still limitations on this. So these are still the same quirks, but seeing them take a jump almost based off of emotions rather than training, obviously all of them have been training for. So Shigaraki, it makes more sense. You train your quirk. He's been doing nothing but fighting Machia for the last 2 months. Him
Yeah.
getting stronger makes sense. But for Toga's case, who has been fighting Machia, but this is a different level of quirk. This is more of an emotional kind of breakthrough. And I feel like it almost is what Twice is about to go through as well. So it's different that, I don't know. I think it's so cool to see and it opens up so many questions, but it's also hard to explain and talk through because there's no rules to it, like so many things in My Hero Academia.
It's such a weird contrast, like when you like, because we the entire time we have like the heroes going through like these trials and tribulations and stuff like that, and like hat and training arcs, and that's how their quirks are kind of leveling up. But when you go to the villains, like it's through like mental breakdowns and near death experiences. You know what I mean? It's such a nice. It's not like a nice parallel, you know what I mean? But it is like the villains have to go through their own shit, and like I mean, this is what their version of it is, right? And I think Toga's is so good. Like you have Curious like literally like hammering her with questions, like literally just like she's literally like taking the wound and like not just poking it, but she's like opening it back up entirely, right? And causing her to have this like total mental breakdown, right? And I mean, Toga's fairly unbalanced as it is, right? So to get to this point, like I mean, it's such a cool way of doing it, right? And you get to like I mean, the big part, like the nice part is like you get to see like every side of Toga with this episode too. Like I mean, you get to see the backstory, you get to see how twisted she can be now, and like it's such a nice progression for her as a character because I mean like like I mean like the psychopathic schoolgirl has been a trope in anime and in like media for like forever, right? Like I mean, it's nothing new, but this is nice that it's been fleshed out just that much more.
Yeah, I mean, Toga's definitely always been one of my favorite league members. So her just getting a spotlight episode
Yeah,
is awesome. And that's why I think we still have a couple of episodes coming up. I mean, kind of based off the preview, we saw that next episode is going to be a twice heavy episode. But
yeah,
we still have Dabi who has a showdown. Shigaraki's still going to have a true showdown. I'm assuming. I mean, he hasn't really done too much yet. He's just kind of walking off away from everyone, probably towards the leader, would be my guess. Then we
hmm
still have Spinner and we have Mr. Compress as well. So there's still
yeah.
4 League of Villain members that are each still need to have their some kind of power up or big showdown. I don't know about Spinner and Mr. Compress. Like,
I know, right? Like
I think
I was,
maybe they'd make it one episode combined, or they get a
yeah,
smaller moment like within that. But I want to see Dabi. I want to see Twice.
of
I
course.
want to see
Yeah.
Shigaraki. Those two are important to the League of Villains, but they are not important to making this arc good.
I like, and it's weird too because they've really made Spinner like almost like the voice of reason
Yeah.
amongst the League of Villains, right? And Mr. Compress, like I feel bad for him because he's just kind of there, right? Like I like Mr. Compress as a character. I think he's like I mean he's got a really interesting quirk. His like you know like I mean he's not just the like the he's like not. gentle criminal magician, you know what I mean? Like he's very straightforward and stuff. So like I like him like that, but I mean yeah, he's never been like the centerfold of the League of Villains. So if him and Spinner get compressed into one episode, I'm not gonna be mad about it. Like it kind of is. And like how do you level up a quirk like Spinner's? You know what I mean? Like
He's just a swordsman.
he's a and he's a gecko, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a sword wielding gecko. He is the My Hero Academia version of a Ninja Turtle, right? Like I mean that's
Yeah.
basically what he is. So
And
I
Mr.
don't
Compressor, you can see it a little bit more though. I mean, oh, like right now we
yeah.
can capture Bill. I guess I don't know what quite his ability is, but like, oh, like he's able to like make it look like a nuclear bomb went off there and just compress an entire like city block or something. Like you
Well,
can see a
yeah.
power up there. But Spinner, like I think Spinner being a
Spinner's got a he's
TMNT
boned.
is a great explanation of where he can go. He can become a better fighter. Maybe he has like a Sue like tongue and can do more with that, or like
Maybe.
or
Yeah, well,
something with
what
like
can
do
geckos
geckos like
really
do they
do?
melt? Do they like change skin?
Well, it's like chameleons. Like
I have
chameleons
no
can like.
idea. Well, I thought
So
all
I mean,
lizards did that.
yeah. Well, yeah. And like that's just it. Like the nice part is with his quirk, you can probably get like some bled
You
over
can
from
make
like
something
other.
up. No one's gonna
Exactly
question it.
right.
Horikoshi could do whatever he wanted tomorrow, and no one's gonna question it because he'd find a way for it to make sense, for it to be a cool
Exactly.
moment, but it wouldn't break the universe, so no
Yep.
one would question it too much. And that's what's cool about that. That I wouldn't be surprised if next week he had a very cool moment, even though we're shitting on Spinner right now, because
Yeah.
that's just what Horikoshi's done with all these characters and quirks, that power ups or crazy moments with everyone make sense because he finds a way to make it make sense.
Yeah, that's just it, right? He like the explanation is never really that like you can rationalize almost everything he does because he gives you enough information to make like just basically make you be able to piece it together, right? So and I think that's a really like that's so impressive, right? And like I mean even like that goes back to Toga. Like how does Toga know how to activate a quirk she's never used before, right? Like I mean does she just have an innate understanding of it
Well,
because
she's
she
fought
can
off against Ochako a little bit. So
that's
I
true.
think,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
plus the UA's festival and all that, I
Yeah.
think that makes a little bit more sense than it just
Mhm.
being like an innate ability to understand how the quirk works. But I do get the line you're kind of going down.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but like you're right. Yeah, she has seen it in action. She knows how it works. So it like I mean to it probably to an extent, right? Like so, um, yeah. I guess you can kind of rationalize it, right? But I mean, like honestly, like like a sick fight from her too, right? Like I mean, they did a great job with that. I was very happy with how that whole fight kind of turned out because I didn't really know where it was going. Right. I mean, despite somebody who has like I've read the manga before, right? But at the same time, like the way they present the fight is very like she could be boned, right? Like you don't and like I mean, at the end of the episode, like I mean, she's basically like bleeding out, right? And I mean, this is gonna like spawn something crazy out of Twice too, right?
Yeah.
Because these two have been like a pair since the beginning.
So I guess something I actually want to kind of touch base back on with the manga. So we
Yeah.
know we've read the manga kind of up to where it is. We always try to catch up on
Mhm.
the manga to where the anime is at. So
Yeah.
I guess something that I want to kind of talk through is I don't feel like this, but I can see how people are. I'm interested for anyone that has read the manga and you just watched the anime. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this
Mhm.
as well. But did you think too much happened in this episode? I guess because
Almost.
we jumped around a lot, but it didn't go overboard. I felt so many chapters were compressed here very tightly. Because I mean, I think originally we had 3 or 4 chapters of them just coming down from the mountainside, talking to Sliding Go, talking to the Hardened Mind. Like I feel like there was so much that happened early on that they kind of took out there. So I don't mind any of it. It felt good. The pacing felt good. It was always jumping around. And that's what the fight would actually be like. It wouldn't make too much sense to focus a whole episode
Mhm.
on them walking down and talking to everyone, then a full episode on Toga, then that. Like, it's a full out battle among these 6 people against thousands. So it makes sense for it to be hectic and jumping all over, which is why I feel like it works. Because that's like what someone out and if filming this in real life, they'd be jumping like, oh wow, this is happening, then that's happening, then this is
Yeah.
happening. Like it makes sense with a battle like that, which is why I feel like it works. And while next episode it could be Twice and Dobby both having a very cool moment, both in the same episode, because in real life of My Hero Academia, they could be happening simultaneously within seconds. So it makes sense to kind of be going back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah, no, I think this is probably one of the few exceptions that it like you need that almost like level of like chaos going on where it does feel like there's a lot going on in the episode because there would be, right? All these events would be stacked up at the same time, right? Like realistically, the Toga and Curious fight is probably going on at the same time as like the Dobby and Ice fight, right? Like I mean, we don't know his name, so I'm just calling him Ice, right? But like I mean, you think these would probably be lining up? Same thing with Shigaraki, like just absolutely decimating this huge group of people. Like these things are probably layered on top of each other. So I don't like I think there has been episodes like that where there has just been too much shit going on at once, but I don't think this is one of them. I think this is dangerously close. Where if you started like basically going off into the weeds with like Spinner and Mr. Compress and everybody, that's where it could be like, okay, I can't keep track of everything. But we didn't go there. You have clearly one fight concluded, one fight ongoing, and like Shigaraki's off doing his own thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's like it, right? So it doesn't feel overwhelming. So like, I mean, next episode we're probably gonna get a Dobby Ice conclusion and a Twice something happening, and then again, like Mr. Compress and Spinner are probably gonna take like their background roles that they usually do, and that'll probably be it.
Which is probably why they concluded the Toga fight here, because then it starts to get out of hand. Like, great.
Exactly.
So now that's one less storyline. Then probably next episode, one or two more might finish down. Then it's going to probably, my guess would be Shigaraki's going to have the biggest moment. We were being getting teased with the more of his backstory that has to come through at this point. I mean, we saw it last episode. He said they're starting to flood back a little bit. This episode, that breakthrough is going to come through at some point. So I think that's going to be a full episode in its own because it's Shigaraki. Yeah. It is the main villain. He has to have a full episode. So if he had a moment during this one, that's where it would have been over. So I think Bones and Horikoshi and all the writers for the actual anime are doing a good job of writing that fine line. I still think in any given episode coming up, they could go a little bit over that. But with this one, it was that fine line, and that's what made it such a good episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, I mean, it made you so excited. Like, it was very much one of those episodes that you're excited for what happens next because you have Twice basically snapping at the end of the episode. You have Dobby squaring off against somebody who has a quirk who will by like the Pokemon elements chart. He like should be at a disadvantage, right? But he's not. So like I mean, you there's a lot to look forward to, and you have Shigaraki with all these memories coming back, right? So there's a lot to be like. I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens, right? Which is great. That's what you want.
Yeah, but is there any last points we actually want to touch on for this episode before we move into the Plus Ultra Award?
No, I don't. I think I do want to touch on Curious's quirk really quick because I think Landmine is just like it's really interesting and like I mean it shows a lot of pre-planning too because she would have had to know that Toga could have like gone off into like these surrounding areas. So there has to be that, like, I mean,
but there has to be some kind of like, I think there's some kind of like rule she can set with it because like she made a person explode when they took in their blood. So like, obviously they otherwise like, that wouldn't make sense. Of like the people ones was what kind of threw me off because like people have to walk here somewhere. Toga stepping in the middle of the back alley, that makes sense. Like, hey, no one go in the back alleys or you're gonna die. That makes sense. But like there were ones in the main street that are going off too, and I don't think people could just know where every single one are. Like even in like the restaurants and then the people exploding as well made me think she can set some kind of conditions on them.
I'm assuming that she can almost like set either like a proximity thing or like a like she I'd assume has to be able to feel if something's near a landmine. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you have that sensation that something's close to it that you could detonate it on your own, right? Now, of course, we won't see any more of it because they explicitly said they want to kill Toga because of what she did to Curious.
Well, I know that's kind of why I want to look it up because
exactly.
She's dead, so we're not going to learn anything more about it.
Yeah, exactly. Unless somebody reveals it later, but like I don't think that's going to happen.
So landmine allowed Choso to bestow explosive properties on anything she touches. The explosives could be detonated at will. So yes, it does seem like she has some control over them.
Okay, yeah. So it's not just like we're just gonna slap it on everybody and stuff's just gonna blow up, right? Like,
yeah.
I think it was a cool quirk. It's weird that they paired it with her in like how she as a character is like. It's kind of like Horikoshi does this a lot where he pairs characters with quirks that don't sync up with their personality. You know what I mean? Like you don't get like like you don't get the Tokoyamis who have like inherently dark quirk, so it makes them a dark character. You know what I mean? Like this is like a interviewer who has an incredibly destructive quirk for like no goddamn reason, right?
Yeah.
So it, it's yeah, it was good though. I liked her as a character, and I liked like her scene in this. Like I think she played her role very very well.
Yeah, but like even like we don't know too much about him, but we saw Skeptic here, and we learned
Yeah,
that like so he had was like he's like the kind of security guy or something kind of like that. He was sitting over camera watching videos and stuff kind of like that. But his quirk was like allowing to turn a normal objects into human like clones. Like
into like puppets.
I guess that kind of makes sense if he is kind of more spy like. But I do get what you're kind of going at there. That like, at least landmine and like a news journalist makes no sense together at all.
There's no sense. Yeah.
I mean, I guess unless you're kind of going off like the kind of like more joke sense of the term is that an interviewer could step on a landmine that kind of blows the story up at any moment and kind of
Oh
go like
my
with like
god.
that kind of approach. You know what I mean? Like kind of the
Yes,
more like
yeah.
ideal one. But I think that's
Yeah.
kind of stretching. I don't know where it came from, but still cool quirk. I agree. But
Yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that's it though.
so. Let's try to recover from my rough explanation of whatever that was and move into the Plus Ultra Award. For those of you that do not know, the Plus Ultra Award is an award we do each and every week where we decide on which character went beyond, went Plus Ultra, which we'll tally up in the season to see who was the ultimate Plus Ultra recipient for all of season 5. James, I think we're going to be on the same page here, but I want to hear you say it first.
I mean, it's got to be Toga, right? Like it
Yeah,
has to be. There's no, I don't like. There's nobody else who did it. So I mean, yeah, like you literally had like an upgrade of your quirk.
Yeah, I mean, her
think it's
quirk
this plus
went
ultra.
beyond what its capabilities were before. Plus, the majority of this episode has been about Toga. The majority of
Yeah,
the actual episode was about Toga. I mean, this was the Toga episode. And I'm going to make
yeah.
a wild prediction. Next week's a clean sweep. We're going to be twice. Just based
I
off
think
the
it's fair.
preview. If he has the same level up for as Toga did, it's going to make sense. But who knows? Dobby, other people could come in. I'm not going to make that invest, but we've been very on the same page this season compared to every other season. So
Yeah.
that's been a nice change. But thank you everyone that have tuned in for this episode, listen on podcasting services, watching on YouTube, wherever it is. Please make sure to interact with you guys to let us know that you guys enjoyed the episode. It means a lot to us because we create this content for you guys. So hearing from you, seeing you interact with it always makes us feel better that we're doing good content. But that'll be wrapping up this week's episode. We'll be back next week for episode 22, Sad Man's Parade, to break down everything that happens there. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you all next Saturday.